This is the Ibex TX31 mini round baler for making hay with your little tiny compact tractor. I made 1,000 bales with this. It appears to work. We're gonna do a lot of enhancements to this over the next month as we get ready to bale some more hay here shortly. We're gonna fully computerize this thing and automate some of the functions. I'm gonna go over and show you how this thing works right now. Some of the changes we made. First of all, we're taking out the door that came with it and replacing it because you can't get full-size twine from Tractor Supply in this thing because they didn't make the door opening big enough. The compartment's big enough, but you can't get it through the door. We already have a video on that, so you can go check that out. One of the other things we did, when this thing has made a bale of hay, an alarm goes off and you have to raise that hydraulic door. That's the hydraulic pump there, by pulling this lever with a little string, which is really hokey and a pain, and probably not that safe because you got this string running from here to the tractor that could fall off, get in the PTO and rip all this off or jerk you off the tractor. It's not safe and it's not convenient. So very first thing you want to do is go over to your favorite place and get yourself a piece of 1-inch PVC pipe. This one's about maybe 3 feet long, and you'll see it's got a little pin in it. Well, your lever already has a hole in it. So you take your pipe and you set it over next to it and you figure out where the hole needs to be and you drill it, get yourself a pin, and you drop your pipe on there and pin it in place. And guess what? Now you got a big old lever that you can reach from the seat of the tractor. Problem solved. However, our new automated system is going to get rid of this lever completely because we're no longer going to pull that lever to dump a bale. The computer's going to do it for us. More on that in coming weeks. I wanted to go over this, kind of give you an idea how this thing works. First of all, you have a bunch of tines down here that are spinning around, sticking out here. And that's what picks up your hay, throws it in the little thing back here. This is a whole series of rollers. So all of your hay is inside this big circle right here, spinning around, spinning around, spinning around. These are your rollers right here. You can see they have a little raised area in them on each side. These are just spinning, spinning, spinning by all these chains, spinning your hay around. As it compacts the hay in there, you can see that this is your door gap seal right here. So it's hinged up here. It opens at the bottom this way, so this entire back rotates up. As it's packing the hay in there, it's actually pushing against this door, trying to open it. And of course it's latched down so it can't open, but that's part of the mechanism to tell you it's full. What they do is they lock the door down into this mechanism. Okay, it's very complicated, okay? But you just have to envision that this gets pulled this way and puts more and more pressure on these springs into a mousetrap mechanism up here. And eventually what happens is, based on where you have this set for bale density or weight, eventually what happens is your little hay bale twine arm is sticking up at about the 1 o'clock position, and you'll see I'm going to pull this right here to simulate it sensing that the bale chamber is full based on your settings over there, and it will drop that arm down. At this point, it has sucked the string end down there because the bale is rotating and it gets pulled in there and starts wrapping around the bale. What happens is this arm lifts up, causing the string to go across the bale. And I'm going to rotate this and show you how it works, but the arm will come all the way up and then it gets drugged past this razor blade that I've removed so I don't get cut. The string will go across it like this and then come back when it slams down and cut the string. And at that point you're done. That's when you pull your little lever and the door raises up and dumps your bale and you start driving again to make some more hay. One of the many issues with this is you're spending an awful lot of time looking backwards on this thing, see what's going on. You're not getting an advanced warning that it's about to drop this thing down. So you have to slam on your brakes and hope if you're actually baling the heaviest bales you can and you don't slam on the brakes fast enough, it may drag some more hay in there and bust your shear pin, which we'll get into what that means in a little while. And what we're going to do is we're going to computerize this and take all that guesswork out and fix a lot of the shortcomings in this and provide a lot more capability. But before I get ahead of myself, I want to go back into how this thing works. So you got a basic idea that it's back there spinning this stuff and it's waiting for things to happen. And a mousetrap type spring mechanism goes off, drops this down. It has a siren that's activated by this switch the arm is dropped down on. And this is all this wiring is for their siren, which is located right here. So as you're driving along, this gives you your audible indication that you need to slam on your brakes. And here's what you'll hear. Okay, so that alarm is going to go off as long as this is down. As this is being drawn in, the string, it's spinning this wheel. This wheel is a gearbox which is tied into this entire mechanism right here. So assuming it hasn't jumped off this pulley's turning and raising this up. So within 5 seconds, maybe less, of the alarm going off, it should go right back off because this arm's going to come off and release this switch. And then the arm should keep coming up and cut the string, and then you dump the bale. That assumes everything works. Again, you're having to stare back here the entire time you're making hay to see what's going on. You also don't get any indication of you're getting close to needing to slow down the tractor until you start seeing this thing raise. Well, this doesn't raise until it's almost done in the first place because it's got to get a lot of hay in there before it's going to start lifting this. This is all tied to the door trying to push open and pulling against all these springs and stuff. So our computerized system is going to give you a lot more indication of what's in that baler instead of using this hokey mechanism here. Again, we're going to leave everything else in place. We're just going to enhance on top of what they have, so we're not modifying the baler. Everything they have on here is going to work. The trip mechanism is still going to work based on where you have it set here. The indicator is still going to work, but we're going to have a better one on the display of the tractor. So let me get back to how this thing works. Let's start up here with the PTO. This is your power takeoff for your tractor. Maximum 540 RPM, but really their maximum is 600. Never exceed 600. And it says for wet grass. I don't know why would you want to bale wet grass, but there you go. And grass, long straw, cut off forage, whatever all that is. I run it at 540, which is pretty standard. So you'll turn your PTO on, be running about 540 RPMs on the PTO, which turns out to be about 1300 RPMs on my tractor, on the engine. This goes into a gearbox right here, and it drives 2 shafts. The first shaft does one thing only. It turns this pulley chain to the hydraulic pump. One thing I found interesting was the balers that cost 2.5 times the cost of this baler don't have a hydraulic pump. You have to have a hydraulic connection on your tractor in order to get the door up. So this makes a lot more sense to have the hydraulics tied in to the baler, so you don't have to have a hydraulic connection on your tractor. There's a reason why they separate this out from the other side, and I'll show you that here in a second. So your PTO spinning, your gears for the hydraulic is spinning, which allows this lever to work, which activates the hydraulic door opener. When it pulls the door open, this is actually a hinge here, which rotates here to unlatch the door right here. So the hydraulics unlatch the door and relatch the door, in addition to just lifting the rear door up. So we come back to the gearbox. So we're spinning to the left, and as long as the PTO and the tractor is spinning, the hydraulic pump will be working and you can open the door. Then we come to this shaft over here. This is what's actually driving the entire baler through all these chains and sprockets. Well, the first thing you're going to notice is that it comes out here to this thing with a little nut through it. Okay, here, nut and bolt. This side here is directly connected to the PTO. It will spin all the time. This side is connected to all these chains. They are independent of each other. If you take this bolt out, your PTO is going to be spinning and none of your chains are going to be spinning. This is your shear pin. When you overload your baler and it's about to damage the baler, it will break the shear pin. They have a whole bunch of shear pin replacements up here. You need 2 10mm wrenches, and this doesn't have to be super tight. It's got a lock nut on it. You can make it, snug. The whole purpose of this is if this side, which wants to spin all the time, has so much pressure on it that it will break this pin. This will break. Your entire baler stops working except for the hydraulic pump because it's on its own drive shaft. So you can still get the door open and get the mess out of there that's causing the shear pin to break. That's why they designed it this way. Then you just come over here and you may have to disconnect the PTO from your tractor. It depends on if you have a PTO that locks when you turn it off or free spins. One of our tractors locks, one of our tractors free spins. We use this one with the one that free spins. So all I have to do is turn the PTO off, rotate the PTO a little bit by hand, get this line back up, shoot a new bolt in there. It takes about 2 minutes. And I've broken these a lot. So assuming the shear pin hasn't broken, it's driving this chain, okay? And you can think of this chain as the front half of the rollers, okay? And it goes around through all these little sprockets. Well, it also drives this little tiny short chain right here. And this tiny short chain drives the rear half of the baler. So every one of these is one of these big round rollers, like rolling pins. So you've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Looks like 10 rollers. Got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the front, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the back. So as it comes through here, this is just an idler for the chain. This is where you actually adjust the chain tension right here. And when this thing's brand new, you need to pay a lot of attention to this because these chains stretch like crazy when they're brand new. All chains do. I keep them about this tight. I'm just kind of wiggling a little bit, not a lot of pressure. You don't want to over tighten your chains because you'll start stretching them and then you're going to be replacing chains, but they shouldn't be too loose because then you'll wear out your sprockets and you'll be replacing those. So it's kind of a balancing act to get this right. We have another idler on the front half. It's not adjustable, it's just a idler, but you know, none of the idlers are adjustable. They're just bolted in place. But there's a couple idlers on here, but this is your tension adjustment for the front half of the baler's chains. And this is the tensioner for the rear chains. And what you want to do is, you don't want to test between those sprockets. You want to find the longest section of chain, which would be right here. Grab it in the middle, try and wiggle it back and forth. And it shouldn't be any slop in it. It shouldn't be hitting any of this metal, and it shouldn't be too tight. So that's pretty good right there. I'm putting only about a pound of pressure on it back and forth. I'm hardly touching it. But you don't want it to feel real sloppy. And then you have your short chain up here. And this one's pretty tight. And I tighten it up here. That's really, really tight. But, you know, it's a short chain, so I could probably loosen that up a tad. But, you know, that's basically how this works as far as rollers go. So your PTO comes into your gearbox. Your oil pump runs all the time, regardless of if you break a shear pin. Your chains back here will run all the time, front and rear, as long as you haven't broken a shear pin. And if your middle chain were to break somehow, then you'd only have the front rollers working and the back ones wouldn't be working. So let's see, your front chain also goes down to something I've taken the cover off, and it drives this right here, which is yet another chain. And this one has a little adjuster. Now I haven't adjusted this one. See, that's not really bad. Usually maybe a tad tightening, but you know, again, this is a short area we're checking, so we don't want to get it too tight. This is what drives your tines that suck all your hay in. So what they have here is a overrun clutch, we'll call it. And you don't actually want this to work unless it has to. The purpose of this is a rock or a stick has gotten up in your intake here and it can't turn. You want this to slip. And of course, you'll be sitting up in the tractor and you'll just be driving along baling hay, and all of a sudden you notice there's a whole mound of hay in front because none of it's being picked up. Meanwhile, this thing's been slipping the entire time. And so now you know you got to get off and fix it. Well, this can only slip so many times before it's going to burn up the little thing in there, that the little friction plate. Then you're going to be replacing that. So it'd be much better if you had a way to know the slippage is going on instead of driving, you know, 10, 50, 100 feet before you notice it's not picking up any hay. That's one of the things we're going to fix with our automated system. But anyhow, this is something you need to check every once in a while, and we're going to get a better information on how to do this. Right now, the book says they should be, you know, 1 inch between the bottom of the bolt and here. Well, that's not good enough. You should be using a torque wrench and have a known specification. We're going to figure out what that specification is. But anyhow, that's what this chain does. It drives your tines. And again, all of that is running off this one thing where the shear pin can break and shut everything down. Up here you have a little lever. What this does is it drops your, hold on a second, let me fix this. Okay, so when you're driving it down the road, it's supposed to be up here, but when you're working and picking up hay, it's supposed to be back here. What this does is it lifts your tines up and down so that you can set the depth of the tines. And then it has a little chain so you can set the maximum drop on the tine. Say you put it up in the working position, lock it, hold on.